Hello everyone and welcome to Back to Basics, Common Sense Law with yours truly, Preet Gill. Do you feel like your life is just getting ahead of you? You're rushing to make that appointment because you're 5 minutes late, or you're rushing to pick up your children from school. Every day from morning to night, it's just rush, rush, rush. And where do we rush the most? It's usually in our commute. Most of the viewers here have a driver's license. Many of us are dreaming of it. I know I did. When I was 16, I could not wait to get my learner's permit and be on the road. Why? Because it gives you freedom. It gives you opportunity, right? So when we're driving around and we're speeding, we also are not just driving. We're thinking about, what are we gonna make tonight for dinner? Or did I pay my credit card bill? Or I absolutely hate my annoying neighbor. Whatever the situation is, trust me, you're not alone. We're always thinking, we're always doing something else. And that unfortunately can lead to distracted driving. Even if you're a perfect driver, all right, something can still happen because it could be somebody else's fault. I'll give you a great example. Me, okay? I don't know if I'm a perfect driver now, but at one point I was, I would follow all the speed limits. I would stop wherever I need to. I wasn't distracted. But then what do you know? One day out of nowhere, an ice cream truck who was probably rushing to sell ice cream to children decides to crash into me, right? And my car is totaled. But what do? This is a serious situation because in fact, in the United States, on average, there are 6 million accidents a year. And half of those accidents result in injury. And this is a really sad statistic, but on average in the United States, 90 people die per day from an accident. So this can change your life. This can change the life of your family. It can have a serious impact on you. So what happens when the unavoidable happens and you do find yourself in a car accident? What are your rights? What can you expect? Whether you're the one who caused the accident or you're not the person, or you're the victim. We don't know. So this show, we're gonna dive right in. We're gonna go into some great tips on what you can do or not do. So stay tuned because right after the break, I have a great guest with me who knows the ins and outs of personal injury related to car accidents. Don't go anywhere. I'll see you right after the break. Welcome everybody. Today we're going to talk about some serious issues about what to expect if you do find yourself in a car accident. It could be something minor, right? Like a fender bender, somebody hit you from the back, or it could be a total nightmare where there's injury, serious property damage, and unfortunately sometimes even death. So what can you expect? And I know that you see all these commercials for personal injury attorneys. It's the process is already so difficult and complicated to get through. So what are the tips? What are you supposed to do? What are you supposed to expect? And I really think that you should know this. Now, I do have to give a small disclaimer. Personal injury laws are very different state to state, okay? Today, we are going to be talking about very specific New York State related laws, but if you are watching us from a different state, it might still be interesting because, a lot of other states do have sister laws that may be identical or similar, or maybe they might be completely different, but I think the tips that we're gonna give in today's show you can probably take with you because they're just basically common sense tips. So without any further delay, I just wanted to take the opportunity to introduce our guest, Sofya Janashvili from the law offices of Helen Dalton and Associates. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
So you are the personal injury guru.
I guess you could say that.
Yeah, I can see that. No, okay, I don't know if you were listening in the beginning, but I gave that example of the accident that I got into with the ice cream truck, and the only thing that I wanted to do was like sue. But I'm sure I did a lot of things wrong. So I guess what happens or what do you expect when you're in a car accident?
Well, just because you're in a car accident doesn't mean that you can just go next week and pick up a paycheck.
It
really depends.
I was like,
I know.
I was like, you totaled my car. I'm gonna win lots of money.
I know, and you're upset, and you kind of want to get back at them.
Right.
But it really depends. It depends on how the accident happened, and it also depends, were you injured in the accident?
Okay.
Were you injured in that accident?
Well, I had a fracture. No, not a fracture. I'm sorry, a sprain. So it was Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But, okay, so if somebody does find themselves in the unfortunate situation and they're in some sort of an accident, what are some of the things that you can advise them that they can do, or tips?
Right. So you're in an accident and it's pretty scary. And a lot of people don't really know, since they're in that situation, don't really know what they're supposed to do.
A lot of them get angry.
Yeah, other than get angry. So that's one thing you probably don't want to do because everything comes up later. But I have a basic 4 tips that I usually give. And the first one is take photographs.
Right. Everyone has those phones that you're on, right?
Everyone has those phones, and you get into your accident. I know the last thing you want to do is just whip out your phone and take pictures, but you need to take pictures. You need to take pictures of the other person's license plate, the other person's car, your car, any injuries, take photographs. Or if you're seriously injured and you're not able to do that, have someone come to the scene of the accident, call your friend, call your mom, say, go there, take pictures, the car is still there, take pictures.
Are there any other advice that you would, any other tips?
I would.
Okay.
Witnesses. And by witnesses, I mean anybody who saw the accident. You want to track them down, take their phone numbers. Because by the time you digest what happened, those witnesses are gone.
Those people, a lot of people are just like, oh, I see an accident, I have to get home. I don't have time for this, right?
Yeah.
A quick question for you, on a side note. A lot of people have those video cameras on their cars. Is that like a good tip to have? Or sometimes that can also get you in trouble if you have your own video? Right?
I mean, have it if you follow the rules of the road.
Right.
Definitely have it. I actually see now when I get into an Uber or Lyft, I always see them have the cameras, and it's so smart. Because if you're following the rules of the road, then you really have proof when someone hits you.
Right.
So do it, but I mean, don't be texting and driving and speeding, because that's going to come up.
So what kind of information would you recommend that you share with the other driver?
Well, definitely your insurance information. Get the other driver's insurance information, and also just what happened, because it's going to come up later. You're going to be asked if you do start a lawsuit. They're going to be asked about what happened in the accident, and if you already heard it from them, you're going to say, you know what, they told me this and it was completely different.
Right.
So definitely ask them what happened, get their insurance information, their driver's license, but ultimately all this is going to be taken in by the police when you call police, which is my 3rd tip.
So it's always a good idea to call the police.
Always call the police.
Right.
Don't try to handle it on your own, especially if you're injured. I think everyone gets scared that they're going to end up paying for their car damage. They're going to end up paying for their hospital bills. Don't be scared. Take care of your health first. Call the police. Let them handle it. Let them see if the other driver has insurance. Let them see if the other driver has a driver's license.
Right, because I mean, there's times when it could be more serious issues, like the driver could be drunk, right? So, or there's other, things that can protect you. So I guess in a way, I kind of feel bad because whenever there's traffic and you see the cops, and then you drive by and you're like, nothing happened, right? But they're doing the right thing. So even though it's an inconvenience to everybody else, you're protecting your rights and then just doing it the right way. Okay.
100%. Yeah, they're really vital. They're really vital in helping injured parties.
So who pays for any of the damages?
Okay. So in New York, we have no fault law. So no fault basically means that no matter whose fault the car accident is, your own insurance will pay for your medical bills and any lost wages, and it's usually up to $50,000, but it depends on your policy.
Okay.
So generally, for your medical bills, your own insurance, and then pain and suffering would be paid by the other person's insurance.
Right.
If you do pursue a lawsuit, and it really depends on so many factors.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So if, like, let's say you're the one who is being sued, right? Do you have to go and get an attorney, or does the insurance company represent you, or get an like? How does that work?
That's a great question. So you need to have insurance because you get an attorney from your insurance company. You could choose to have your own attorney, but generally one of the reasons why insurance is so expensive is because they do represent you if you are sued.
So what happens if the other driver doesn't have any insurance?
That's a good question too. When the other driver doesn't have insurance, it's really silly for them because they end up having some of the liability, but there are ways to get around it in New York. It can get complicated, so if you are in an accident and you're injured, I would really advise going to an attorney because there are avenues you can take. New York State has some roads where they will give you insurance if there's no insurance there. Yeah.
So speaking of attorneys, I'm driving and I always see these billboards of all these attorneys. There's especially one firm that I won't mention, but they have a jingle, right? So everywhere you look, there's always advertisement, injured, we'll get you $3 million, injured, we want $50 million, right? How do you find the right attorney, especially if, let's say, you're the one who was injured? Like, how does that work?
So it's so true. Personal injury attorneys are a dime a dozen. You see the billboards when you're driving down the highway, and they have those catchy slogans all the time. But there's definitely red flags when choosing attorneys because there's so many. I think the main one that I would recommend is don't get a general practice attorney. Get an attorney who is specialized in personal injury.
So general practice, like don't get somebody who does your immigration too, and also your wills, and somebody who's going to do your house closing, which, maybe there is an attorney out there that can handle all that. But why is the specialty so important?
Because it's complicated.
Okay.
Litigation in personal injury is complicated. You want somebody who does this day in and day out and who knows the ins and outs of the court system. You wouldn't, if you wanted to, get your makeup done, you wouldn't go to the corner bodega.
Right,
so it's the same thing.
Right.
You want to go to a specialist.
Right.
So you really want to go to a personal injury attorney and go to their website, see their reviews, see how in the past they've, dealt with clients and what their experiences were. Definitely do your research because there's so many attorneys out there. Yeah.
Are there anything other red flags out there to stay away from?
Definitely.
Okay.
I would say if an attorney promises you a certain amount of money, says, oh, you have that fracture, I guarantee you're going to get $50,000, I would not go with that attorney because you never know in the beginning of a case how much money it's going to be worth.
Okay.
Yeah.
Any other red flags?
Another one is if in the beginning of the case, they've already given you money. And that's also an ethical issue. Yeah.
So wait, there are attorneys that will give you money to then be your attorneys?
Yeah, and there's attorneys who lost their licenses because of that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think another one I just want to add really quickly is get an attorney who will actually return your phone calls. At least, listen, we're all busy, so don't call them like every 5 minutes, but someone who's going to keep you on top of what's going on in your case. So these are really important tips because I feel like some really good cases you may not get the best outcome if you go with the wrong attorney. Yeah. So if we are in litigation, what are some of the things briefly that we can expect?
That's a great question. One thing that I think people get surprised by is how long a personal injury case takes. On average, it takes 2 to 3 years. And that,
yeah,
I know. And that's not because of how your case is going. It's just because the courts are flooded. 95% of cases in civil Supreme are car accidents.
That's where the case goes generally?
That's where the case goes, yes.
2 to 3 years.
2 to 3 years.
And that can be really painful if you do have a serious injury, right? And you're waiting for that verdict to come out. Is there anything else that we can expect?
Yeah, another thing that clients, I said before, you can't just get into a car accident and then expect a check the next week. You really need to do your parting, which is, by that I mean, you need to get treated. And that was another tip. When you get into a car accident, if you're injured, and I'm not a doctor here, so I'm not giving medical advice.
Right.
But if you're injured in a car accident, go to the hospital, seek treatment, go to your doctor. A lot of people think that it's just going to go away. And also the shock and the adrenaline of being in a car accident, you're not thinking about,
right.
Wow, I'm really, really hurting. But it's important because in the end of the day, when you start a lawsuit, you get pain and suffering, and it needs to have a paper trail.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, I remember from my own personal experience, they kept asking me, do you need to go to the hospital? I'm like, no, I'm fine, because you're angry. You just want to go home, and my dinner was in the car. So I was like, I'm hungry. But they continued to ask me, and I'm glad I did, because I did have a minor accident, but sometimes, like you just said, when you have that adrenaline, think about it. Like all of a sudden you missed a car accident, right? You wake up and you have all this energy coming in. you're not worried if you have pain here. You may not even feel it, and then you decide not to take medical treatment, and a day later or even a week later, all of a sudden your arm hurts and you can't lift it. Well, guess what? It's not going to be in the reports that you sought medical treatment. How are you going to prove that that injury didn't happen, like, I don't know, days later from another incident? So it's really important. I think your steps are great. Is there any other things that we can expect in litigation? I know we're running out of time, so if you wanted to add anything to it.
Some things that you can expect, 2 to 3 year wait. And also there's a lot of things that the client needs to do because it's very regulated. And this is why I said you need to go to an experienced attorney.
Right.
You need to go to things like an IME appointment because that's what the insurance company requires. So there's a lot of steps that the client needs to take, and that's what you should expect, that you're going to have to be working on your case as well, that you're not just going to hand it over to an attorney and then they're going to hand you a check.
Right.
Yeah.
So, I mean, thank you so much. So this is for the law offices of Helen Dalton and Associates. Please
Yes.
feel free to call her. What is the firm number again?
Helen Dalton and Associates, 718-263-9591. We're happy to do a free consultation with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And don't go anywhere. I'll see you right after the break. Welcome back. We discussed some great tips about what happens if you do find yourself in a car accident. First and foremost, if you're like me, don't get angry, because I know it's messing up your day, right? Now your car is messed up, maybe you're injured, and the first thing you want to do is start yelling and screaming and just making things worse. So the best thing to do is do all the yelling and screaming later, okay, when you're suing them. First, remain calm, all right? Take pictures. I mean, we all love to share pictures on WhatsApp. This is a time when you take the pictures. Take pictures of the license plate. Take pictures of any damages. And then you should also exchange information with the driver, talk to them, and try to see if there were any witnesses out there. And the most important issue that we discussed is get medical treatment for an injury. You may not feel that you have an injury at that moment because you're so into the moment, right? But then it starts a week later it may arise and now you have an issue. So just get checked out and make sure that you're okay, because trust me, if there is an injury, and I hope there's not, this is going to benefit you in the future, because remember, not all injuries are going to lead you to, some sort of a lawsuit and the big payout that you always hear about. There are very specific types of injuries. So there's so much that we can talk about and into personal injury, and we're going to continue to go into the realm of what happens when there's other types of injuries and other scenarios. But before we end the show tonight, I just want to take an opportunity to thank my assistant, Tania Hussein, who has been here with me from the inception of the show. I'm telling you, she's leaving us for a greater place, but that's fine. But she's the one that's been behind the scenes, putting all the shows together, getting you all the information. And I just want to let you know, Tania, you're going to be truly missed. And thank you for not tripping over the wires, okay? Because that was really funny. But thank you all. I'll see you guys next week, same time.